Welcome to Dark Tube, where the shadows whisper secrets and the unknown lurks closer than you think. Tonight, we're stepping into the mind of a true predator. Someone who doesn't just take lives, but enjoys unraveling them. He could be your neighbor. The man sitting across from you on the subway. The stranger who held the door open for you today. Elliot Grayson didn't just kill, he studied people. He learned their fears, their weaknesses, and then he tore them apart. Are you ready to take this journey? I have to warn you, once you enter his mind, you may never escape. Elliot Grayson, a name that could belong to anyone. On the surface, he was just another ordinary man, but deep inside, something was broken. Something that had never been whole to begin with. Even as a child, Elliot was different. While other kids played, laughed, and made friends, he found pleasure in something else control. He loved watching people squirm, making them doubt themselves, bending their minds to his will. His first real experiment was at the age of 10. He told a classmate a story, one so terrifying that within a week, the boys stopped coming to school. No one suspected Elliot. That was when he realized something. If I can destroy someone's mind with just words, imagine what I could do with my hands. From that day, Elliot knew his purpose, not just to break people, but to erase them. Years passed, and Elliot's hunger grew. Observing people wasn't enough. Manipulating them wasn't enough. He needed more. One cold night, at the age of 22, he took his first step into the darkness. A lone woman, a quiet alley, and a gleaming knife in his hand. She tried to scream, but Elliot already knew how to silence her. For him, it wasn't about rage. It wasn't even about pleasure. It was just an experiment. And when he saw how easily life could be snuffed out, he felt something he had never felt before. Peace. That night was only the beginning. Elliot learned something that night. It wasn't just the kill he craved. It was the hunt. At first, he picked random victims. But soon, that wasn't enough. He wanted a challenge. He started targeting people who were at the peak of their happiness. Newlyweds, people who had just been promoted, those who thought they were safe. Because nothing satisfied him more than turning joy into terror. But in his arrogance, he made a mistake. His latest victim was the younger brother of a police officer. And this time, Elliot wasn't just hunting, he was being hunted. Detective Harrison was no ordinary cop. He didn't just want justice, he wanted revenge. Elliot had always believed he was untouchable. But his overconfidence had left a clue behind, a small fragment of his knife. A DNA match was all it took. Harrison set a trap. Elliot thought he was in control, as he always had been. But this time, he was walking straight into someone else's game. One night, as Elliot stalked his next victim, he didn't realize that he was the one being followed. And when the sirens screamed around him, for the first time in his life, he felt fear. In prison, Elliot was no longer the predator. He was the prey. For years, he had judged others. Now, he was the one being judged. Evidence piled up, and in the courtroom, for the first time, he saw the end of his game. Sentenced to death, he was led to the execution chamber. His face remained blank, emotionless. But in his eyes, for the very first time, there was something new. Defeat. For him, life had always been a game, and today, that game was finally over. This was a journey into the mind of a psychopath, a world where darkness ruled, where human life was just an experiment, and where evil thought it could win. But in the end, the monster always falls. If you want to hear more terrifying stories, subscribe to DarkTube, because next time we'll bring you a tale that will haunt you forever.